Hi everybody, I'm actually on my way back home right now. I'm traveling through western North Carolina. You can see behind me part of the Blue Ridge Parkway. This is just one of the overlooks here. And I thought I'd stop here and kind of check in with you for a midweek check-in. There's a story I wanted to share with you. If you've been listening to the podcast, then you heard last weekend when we released the episode 36, you met Cindy and Heather Phillips. And if you heard the story, Heather grew up deaf as well as her brother, and they tell their story about the early years in last week's episode, and the one coming up this weekend will be the rest of their story. So I want to make sure you check in for episode 38. But for this one, I wanted to tell you a little side story that started with that one. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tonya Wallum, and I'm the host of the Water Prairie Chronicles, a podcast where we encourage parents of children with disabilities by interviewing people who understand the questions special needs parents may have. After I interviewed Cindy and Heather, I was able to think about what they had shared, and Heather shared a story that you're going to hear on the next episode, so I don't want to spoil that one for you, but it got me thinking a little bit about how I view others, how I may interact with them without even realizing if it's appropriate or not. So I was at work the next day after the interview and had a customer come in who was deaf, and I don't know sign language, and he was not able to hear me at all. And so we used some combination of facial expressions and gestures, and were able to communicate to answer the questions that he had. But I walked away thinking, I really was missing out on something. And so I pulled out my phone and I dictated a little paragraph and left it for him to see that I appreciated the fact that that he couldn't hear what I was saying, and that I wish that I could have help more, and just that I was there if he needed me. And so when I came back over, he had read the message and was showing me to come over to see him. He had pulled out his phone and had an app on his phone, and I'll tell you the name of the app now. It's called Live Transcribe. I think I have that right. If I have it wrong, then I'll fix it in the notes. But it was really a cool app. It's only for Android. He laid it down on the counter, and I was able to speak into it, and in real time it was transcribing what I was saying so he could read what it was, and he was able to speak. So we had a full conversation, and I felt like I walked away having a new friend that I would have missed out on had we not tried to make some type of communication. And it got me thinking about how we may view each other. And so I shared it with a coworker, and we have another coworker who is deaf, and we have a tablet where we write to him and he writes back what needs to be communicated. But that's basically all that we're doing, is just communicating. So I had the opportunity to share with him the app that the customer showed me, and now within his department they're using the app to communicate better. So I guess the whole point of wanting to share the story with you is to let you know that one interview, just talking with Cindy and Heather, got me thinking. It made a difference in how I was able to work with customers that are coming in for me at work. And then that went on to help coworkers there. And I tell my guests when they come on that my goal for each interview is that one family will be affected by this, that we'll be able to help one family at least know the questions to ask, know the next step to take for their child or for their family. And in this case, it was a trickle-down effect. It affected me, it affected the customer that came in, it affected my coworkers. And I'm hoping that some that are listening to it will also be able to make a difference with it. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I will check in with you again with the official episode for this week, for episode 38.
This podcast is made possible by support from our listeners. We want to give a shout out to our superfan, Praveen S. If you want to help offset the cost of producing the Water Prairie Chronicles, become a supporter at buymeacoffee.com/waterprairie.
You've been listening to the Water Prairie Chronicles. Any resources mentioned during this episode will be posted in the description. If you're interested in joining us as a guest, contact us through the links in the description below. Be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. We appreciate your support as we build this resource. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for a new episode.